be the one to break it to you, but sex education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a podcast where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Arielle Zadok. I'm a sex educator, intimacy coordinator, and a whole lot of other things. My guest today is an award-winning actress, comedian, podcaster, writer, director, singer, curvy model, Comic-Con panelist, and dance hall queen. Welcome to the show, a woman who does it all, Anastasia Washington!
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, thank you for coming!
I mean, I'm so excited to be here talking about the birds and the bees and how they don't interact.
Yeah, they actually do not. It's a wild thing, which is, I mean, so the idea for this just kind of came to me. I wasn't even like trying to do a podcast again. I just had the name came to me and I was like, birds and bees don't fuck. Like, why did everybody teach us that? It was dumb.
I know. I think it's just they were. I mean, like I've heard a lot of weird ones.
Yeah.
You know, how babies came from like storks, and there was like cabbage patches, right?
Oh my god!
And you know, the watering hose in the flower garden.
There are some hoes involved.
There are some hoes. I feel like that one's a little bit close.
This is like the most spot on there is, you know?
But you know, I grew up in LA, so like I knew what sex was a little bit probably sooner than most.
Yeah, and you answered my first question of where'd you grow up, which is LA, which is great. No, I love that. And you had a really unique experience growing up as well, because you grew up in the industry, in the production industry, in film, at a really early age. So how old were you when you had your first project, like bigger project?
I guess I did some commercials that I don't remember, like when I was like 2, but I guess 3 is when I started like really being in like films and like TV shows. So I guess 3. But then I was union by like 7 or 8.
Hey, getting that SAG card early.
Paying dues for the rest of my life.
That's right. And it's such a different experience because you are intrinsically around adults all of the time as opposed to being around kids all the time. So what was that like from a schooling perspective? Because for anybody who doesn't know, when you are a kid on set, you have to have your schooling done on set because there are a certain amount of hours of school that each child has to get every day, depending on their age. There's a certain amount of time that you have to work or that you're able to work. So, you know, I come from producing and ADing. So like as an AD, I'm constantly navigating that and trying to figure out, do we have enough school? Did they get their break time? What are we doing? How much more do we have to shoot?
Yeah.
So your schooling, I would imagine, looked quite different from other schooling.
Yeah, I mean, I was out of like so-called regular school a lot for like huge chunks of times, and then I would go to school on set depending on, you know, the project. It was interesting coming back to school after that, but a lot of the people in my school were also actors, so it was a little bit. But it was like weird coming back because people were like, "What job are you working on? Why didn't I get that job?" more than it was like, "Oh, where did you go?" You know?
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah,
what an adult experience.
Yeah, it was pretty competitive. And I guess that's one of the things I learned really quickly, that I didn't want to be competitive with other people.
Yeah.
I was just like, I just want to be happy.
I just want to hang out and do things alike.
But, you know, going to school on set it's a strange thing, and it depends on the project you're working on, right? Like one of the projects I worked on had prosthetics and had like blood and guts. And so some of the kids had to come back to schooling and do their schooling hours with the prosthetics on.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just fascinating to me. I probably became very much more fascinated with the macabre than well, you know, my mom's weird like that too. So maybe I would have always been like a horror fan, but I was definitely like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? And they're like, Anastasia, do your homework. And I'm like, oh.
But this is so cool.
There's like guts, there's like blood gushing out of her head.
well, can you at least teach me what the guts and the blood is made out of?
Is that part of
Is
this?
that like,
no, it's just math. I don't care.
fuck, how many bloods does it take to make a blood splash?
If math was like that,
You know?
I would be into like final girl math. I would love it. I would love it.
I feel
I'd
like
be
there's a
into
real
it.
missed opportunity there in how we're teaching kids about stuff, especially kids on set. Like, why don't we just take some parts of what we're shooting and use that as education, huh?
I mean, I would have had a very weird upbringing, but I'm into it. Like, I would have had a very weird education based on the movies and stuff.
Yeah.
I was in, but that I'm open.
What kind of projects did you do growing up?
I did like the Addams Family movies. I did Die Hard 2, which everyone, I know it's not your favorite Die Hard. I don't need to hear it.
Don't put it in the comments.
I don't care. Like you watch it, I see the residual checks, so don't at me. Keep watching. Keep hate watching. I don't know what you guys are doing. I was in like Home Alone, but I wasn't actually in Home Alone. I did the soundtrack, so I was just with like John Williams and the like sound stage. I didn't ever get to see Macaulay. Sorry. never experienced Macaulay. That sounded weird.
Yikes.
I didn't mean it like that.
But we'll take it and we will run with it.
We'll take it. But yeah, like stuff like that. Basically, if there was a child singing in a movie in like 80s and 90s, it was probably me.
That's so fun.
Because it was just that way.
What a weird claim to fame. I was the child singing in all the 80s movies.
Pretty much, yeah. And some of the rides too. So it's really it's strange. Like sometimes like I'll go someplace and they'll be making fun of like, like I did the little Small World. So like people love to hate on that. And so they'll just be like, and that, but I'm like just giggling to myself that
you're like,
I just ruined your whole childhood and I love
it. I was just there last week and I wish I knew because I would have tagged you in my this song is too long.
Yes, please tag me. I mean, my sisters when they go on the ride, they're like, because I was pretty loud when I was a kid. I'm not that loud of a singer now. Like I've like learned to be subtle, but back then I was not subtle. I was very much like Baby Ethel Merman was my nickname when I was a kid. And if you know who that is, she's loud. So my sisters always go on the ride and they're like, I can hear you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Oops. I'm real loud.
My bad.
I'm sorry.
Well, now next time I go, I'm going to listen for you and see if I can recognize your voice, your child voice.
Hopefully I don't sound the same, but maybe I do.
Oh, man. So growing up in Los Angeles, in a school where everybody's in and out, what do you remember of your first experiences with sex education? Like, I wonder if it was any different than in, say, Battle Creek, Michigan.
I mean, I think we had the typical experience. I mean, we had it in 6th grade where we all were like in an auditorium and we had to watch a film and then we had people talking to us in groups. Like the girls were grouped together and then the boys were grouped together and then they came together and that was like my first foray into it. And there was a very strange film that we had to watch. I just remember some of it was like cartoonish and I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it. And then we had another set of sex education in junior high in our health class. Yeah. So that was pretty much it. But I think most of us were just kind of giggling through it all because I was really outspoken about sex even before then. I was kind of like, my parents always were like, if you want to see something, like you want to see a movie or something like that, let us know and we'll just talk about it. So there was a lot of conversations I had with my parents probably earlier than other kids because I would be like, I want to see blah, blah, blah. And then
Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction. And they're like, cool, well, then we'll just have to talk about it after. It was the same way like with like religion. I remember for a while I wanted to be like a witch and my mom was like, okay, but like we'll take you to classes and we have to talk about it. And if you're going to do anything really strange, please just like come to me. We'll discuss it. Like, I'm like, okay, before I sacrifice somebody, I have to come to you.
I have to come to my mom before I murder someone for witchcraft.
Orgies before an orgy.
Go to mom.
And so I always like had these conversations with that. I mean, I feel like that was a better sex education than I got in school. And I got very opinionated about things pretty fast. You know, like I was also exposed to a lot of different kinds of people very early in life.
Yeah.
So I always had like very strong opinions about the LGBTQ community that like most kids probably didn't have. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
I had a side. Like I definitely was like, I remember my parents were listening to like some radio program, and they didn't think I was listening or something, and it was about gays in the military. This was like, you know,
Oh,
how, you
yeah,
know, it was a
90s.
big thing.
Yeah.
And
Don't ask, don't tell
don't ask,
era.
tell, right?
Mhm.
And so they said, I think it was like 7 or 8, and I said, oh, why does it matter? You're not supposed to be having sex in the barracks anyway.
Hey! She knows. She
So like I just had
knows.
weird, like I guess I got this like weird education just from being around different different types of folks in life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine as a child growing up on set, I mean, there's so much shit that you hear on set. And I
Yeah.
know whenever I'm ADing something and I'm working with kids, I am so clear with my crew that I'm
Mm.
like, hi, there are children here. There are kids on set. They will be hearing everything you say.
They do.
So
Yeah.
it's not just about like when they're on screen and what you're like, how, first of all, like you don't be talking to the kids. Like, just don't. You don't need to. The grip never needs to talk to the kid. Nobody needs to talk to the kid. I talk to the child because I'm an AD
Right.
or the producer, even the producer. Like the producer's not really talking to the kids either. It's like
Yeah.
the AD talks to the kids, the cast members talk to the kids, the director talks to the kids. That's where it ends. Like,
I
ain't
mean,
nobody,
that's
you
really
know.
good of you. I mean,
Yeah, I got to protect those little babies.
yeah, I mean that's so good of you. I don't think we like really thought about it. Like, and again, it's also a very different
Time.
time.
Also,
Like,
I'm a woman. So, like, I
yeah,
think about that where like dudes are just not.
right. And we didn't actually think about like that kind of stuff. I don't think as much. Like, you know, there are certain situations I've been in. Like now, my mom will be like, "Whoa, I don't know if I should have done that." But it was also like the time period was very different, and Hollywood was very different.
Oh, yeah.
And
Big
so
time.
like seeing my niece who is now 13, who is also in the industry going through it, it's interesting. Like, you know, she still has to have on school, you know, like on-set school and
Yeah.
all this stuff like that. But things are like different now. Like the hours they work are different.
Yeah.
And just like what they're allowed to be exposed to is different. Like they're
Yeah.
very cloistered. And I respect that a lot. I don't think I necessarily like was like traumatized by anything
No.
particularly. I mean, just the normal trauma of being a woman.
Yeah. You know, especially a woman on set.
Being a woman on set. But it is interesting to see the difference
Yeah.
in that. But yeah, I don't know how sex education is now, but it's definitely interesting to hear my niece and nephew talk about like what they were learning in school and just how wrong so much of it
It's
is.
still so wrong. That's the
So
thing.
wrong.
And literally that's why this podcast is called Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, because everything we're told when we're young is so
wrong.
fucked up and wrong for the most part.
I don't even think it's just growing up. Like I remember I used to work at Hustler on Sunset, and the things that people would come in, um, the questions they would have, the things that they would say that they were doing, and then I'd have to like kind of like course correct them and be like, you know, this is not really how that, like, especially like anal.
Oh my God.
So many anal jokes are being told right now, and I hear like in stand up it's like a huge thing right now. Everyone's telling an anal joke, and it's like, okay, that's fine, whatever, I don't care. But you guys are also like, straight men need like they need a book.
Yeah,
They need a book on
by the
anal.
way, there are so many books.
There are so many books, but like they don't realize um how they think gay men are running around just doing anal like all the time.
No.
And then they think like with women that it's just like, let's just slip it in, or
You can't just slip
right?
it in.
And I just wish there was like a video or
Yeah.
like some kind of like,
It is on my list.
it
So
is
there will
good.
be from me at least. It's on my list. And honestly, by the time this podcast comes out, maybe it will be out. No, I don't think so. But
That would be great.
yeah, it is because there's so much misinformation about it. And people are literally getting hurt.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's also just kind of disrespectful to your partner that you don't realize like how intense it is for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I don't think they're trying to be that way. I just think they're misinformed by it.
Yeah.
I think gay men are very much informed about it, and it is a huge thing for them. Like I don't know, like maybe that's also part of like media's
Yeah.
representation of how love looks in a gay relationship, or
Mhm.
how sexual exploitation looks in just general. But anal sex is a big deal. Anal sex is something you have to prepare for.
Yeah.
It's not like an absolute no for everybody. Like but it's also like you have to. There's steps and there's
Yeah, there's a
preparation.
ritual.
There's
There's
a ritual,
literally a
right?
preparation. There's a ritual. People will change what they eat for the day
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. They will give themselves enemas
Yeah.
sometimes. There are different, like, if you know that you're going to have a sexual experience that may include anal, may or may not, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're preparing for it, there are literally things that you will do to
Yeah.
prepare
Or
your
don't
body
do. Yeah.
and to prepare your mind and to prepare your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just like, boom, stick it in. No sex is like that, but
No.
especially not anal, because it is your sphincter, your anal sphincter
Mm-hmm.
is a vacuum, and
Yeah.
it's small and
Mm-hmm.
it's tight. It's very tight, which is why it feels good. And there are a lot of
Yeah.
sensors inside the anus that do feel really good,
Yeah.
but yet
But
there's no
mainly for
lubrication.
men.
Yeah, especially for men, because the prostate is there and that's how you can
Yeah.
access the prostate, but there's no natural lubrication there.
Mm-mm.
And so all you're going to do is
Just tear
stretch
it.
open this hole that's real small and real tight and vacuum sealed, literally a vacuum. That's why you need a stopper, and that's why things get caught up the butt.
Yeah.
But you're just going to be ripping tissue apart,
Yeah.
and you're going to be hurting the person that you're trying to give pleasure to, unless you don't give a fuck, in which case, fuck you, get the fuck out. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a painful thing if you're not properly prepared.
Yeah. And I think I think most guys that try to like, do that are not bad
No,
people. I
no.
think they are misinformed in how
Hmm.
much that feels wrong and can really cause damage to your partner. And
Uh-huh.
so I feel like those are the kind of things like we didn't know, like we weren't taught, like in sex education we're taught like this is how you have a baby, this is how the bodies kind of work, but there's so much more. There's consent
Yeah.
and emotions and it's just like here's how it works, don't do it, if you do it, do this, and that's it. And there's just so much more to it.
Yeah.
And there's so many more complex situations that you'll be in your life. And it's really like, I think the most enlightening thing I ever did was like work at a sex shop,
Oh,
because it
yeah.
just like I got into the mentality of how people look at sex and want to try things and are like so scared to, but then they do it the wrong way, and then it like really ruins their
Yeah.
experience for that, and like stigmatizes it for them even further.
Yeah.
I'm like, if we could just like, if you're curious about something, don't go to like Pornhub about it. But
No.
like, I mean,
And here's the
there's
thing that I find
avenues.
so fascinating. And I am going to be very binary in this, and I am going to speak to men. I love men. Do not get me wrong.
Right.
I fucking love men
I love them too.
so much. Give me that peen.
Yeah. I love a peen.
But, huge but here. They
Are you
will.
talking about my huge butt here?
Yeah, your
Yes.
huge butt
Okay.
is great.
Thank
It's
you.
such a great huge butt.
Thank you.
Booty, booty, booty,
Booty,
booty,
booty.
rocking everywhere.
It's true. It does. It does that.
But yours and mine.
Together.
Together. That's the
Exactly.
sounds of our butts.
Oh my God. Sound effects. I love it.
We're really an all-inclusive show
I
here.
love it.
But dudes will Google and YouTube and watch hours and hours and hours of how to build a fucking deck, how to fix your car, how to change your fucking toilet because you refuse to call a plumber or whatever the fuck. But they will not do the same thing for sex. The
Right.
resources are there. There are so many,
Yeah.
like I haven't started necessarily teaching classes on a big scale or like putting out resources. I will be, but there are so many people who have come before me that have extraordinary resources. There are so many classes, there are so many
Yeah.
YouTubes. I mean, if you're a dude and you're listening to this, you're already ahead of the
Yeah,
game because you are
you're the
listening,
best.
and thank you for listening, and this is for you. I have really strong feelings that there are a lot of resources, and other people like women and non-binary people are going and finding those
Mhm.
resources. Gay people or anyone who's not straight, is they are also going for these resources, but I don't see men doing that. So one of my biggest things here is to serve the straight cis male community,
Yeah.
because I feel like they're being left behind by their own like
Yeah.
their own doing. But like, what do we need to do to lift you up? Because all of us can do all this work, but unless y'all are on board, we're only going to get
Yeah.
so far.
I mean, I do think it has a lot to do with like shame and
A
vulnerability,
hundred
right? Like
percent.
and how certain things are delivered to them, right? Like you have to be very, and I'm learning this because like even in my, like previous relationships, like I am a very open person. I feel like I'm a very kind, giving person, but there are some things that like I'm like, why don't you get this? Or like
Yeah.
why, and that shuts them down.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And or go read a book about this or like whatever, or like this is how I feel, watch this documentary or whatever. It like it shuts them
Yeah.
down. And so it's almost like you have to find digestible
Mhm.
media for
Yeah.
them to learn these things. And I mean, we can talk about like certain comedians and how bad they are at stuff, but like even Aziz Ansari, who, yes, complicated issue to talk about,
Yeah.
but I do think he kind of delivered some of the messages that he was learning in a more digestible way for some men because
Yeah.
they were messing up like him.
Yeah.
And I think he like kind of spoke to them in their language.
Yeah.
And I feel like if more comedians are like that,
Yeah.
I think a lot of men will be able to listen.
Yeah. I
Because if
mean,
I say it, it doesn't matter,
yeah. Yeah. And that is why I really love the intersection of sex and comedy. And
Yeah.
that is what I am personally most
Yeah.
interested in edutainment, because
Yeah.
I feel like if we can make things funny, and like even if I'm talking shit about dudes while I'm trying to teach you things, like
Yeah.
I'm already seeing it, like dudes are like, this is fucking funny, and
Yeah.
like it does,
Exactly.
like it's it's so complicated, because how do we get to this community of people who they are damaged by the system that all of us grew up in
Mhm.
just as much as we
Oh,
are. The
yeah, for sure.
patriarchy has fucked them just as
Oh,
much, because they
absolutely.
haven't made it safe for them to be like, you know what? I don't know enough about this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to please you. I don't know
Yeah.
what this means. It's okay. Like, the best thing you could do is ask questions,
Right.
but at the same time, a
It's
lot of
scary for them.
it's fucking terrifying. It's because they're taught that they should be like strong and
Yeah.
know everything, and you need to please a woman and blah 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 blah. And again, I am speaking in very straight cis non-binary
Yeah. Very
binary
generic.
terms,
Yeah.
so I completely understand that. But that's the point of the conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
So they were raised in the system, and so often, even when they are those guys that are doing the work and are asking questions, they find themselves with female partners that have never been asked, what do you like?
Yeah.
And that's a scary question to receive as well. So like, we're all fucked
Oh,
here.
yeah.
We all have so much work
And
to
there's
do.
also a thing with this like cancel culture in the air, which I know like like people talk about it a lot. I don't think anybody's really like super canceled, but I do think we need to be like super open to people learning from their mistakes and
Yeah,
changing and being able to like everyone's going to mess up,
of
right?
course. Yeah.
Everyone's going to mess up. And so if you mess up even sexually with your partner or something like that, like I hope that you can get some empathy and some forgiveness and actually move, you know, through it to learn from it
Yeah.
and talk to your partner and have the hard conversations, because sex is awesome, sex is fun, and sex can be freeing, but it also can be like very polarizing and very
Yes.
very like scary, and um like it can really belittle you if you don't have the right partner. And even if you do have the right partner, sometimes if you're just not communicating with yourself or with them in a correct manner. And so it's just like, ugh, I just let's make fun of it all the time and see. Hopefully, like somebody will laugh and be like, "Oh, but also, yeah,
Yeah, dude. Like weird sex is weird and
it's
messy,
weird."
and you're gonna
Yeah,
make sounds and liquids are gonna come out of all
yeah,
sorts of orifices.
yeah.
And like, who fucking cares, man? Like, and here's
So
the
many
thing.
people,
So many
so many
people.
people are very
I know.
scared,
All of us are. But that's
and
why
the
we have
shame
to,
aspect of it,
of
right?
course,
The
but that's
shame of
why I think we
pleasure.
need to come back to the question of like, who fucking cares? Who cares? Like, as if we can kind of just
Yeah,
all get back into ourselves and recognize everyone's going to make sounds. Everyone's going to stick things where they shouldn't go and say, ow.
yeah,
Everyone is going to have days where their bodies are off and weird odors are coming out.
yeah,
Everybody is going to be doing things that feel so good that weird sounds come out of your body that you're like, oh my God, I didn't know my voice could do that. Like,
right.
sex is weird
Yeah,
and it's messy and it's
yeah.
gross and it's beautiful and it's
Hmm.
pleasurable and we're going to fuck up and talking about it is weird. And the more we can acknowledge that,
Yeah,
then I think the more we can get to the point where we're like, yeah, I
yeah.
queefed. Who fucking cares? You fucking love it. Fuck me some more. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I especially think like, well, I'm super demisexual, so that to me is like I have to get to an emotional point where I'm comfortable with my body and
Mhm.
them, and not even just my body, it just comfortable enough with them emotionally that I am able to go there with
Yeah,
my body.
of course.
But that's not everybody's bag, and it happens quicker for some people, but you have to figure out what is right for you. And I think if you force yourself to be the other way, that
Mhm.
you're not, it's also like, a lot of people are like, you should just go fuck everything,
No.
And I'm like, okay,
Mm-mm.
but that's you and that's great for you. And I would love to listen about all the shit. Like I love it.
Yeah.
Just not me. But
Mhm.
I am like so like devoted to my partner, and I like so love listening and just experimenting and doing all that. To me, that is ultimate.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do it with any other peen besides my partners.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm like, that's nice that you have a peen, but you can keep going.
But you can put it somewhere
Yeah.
else. But and here's the thing too, even within the confines of that safe
Yeah.
space of that relationship,
Yeah.
you're still going to come into all of these things where
Oh
it's like
yeah.
my boob is weird today.
Uh-huh.
I ate something and so I feel like my discharge is weird or I queefed and like they're even within that safe space, it's still messy and weird and uncomfortable at times and so we
And
have
it's
to just
also messy for and uncomfortable for your partner. I think that we
yeah,
don't talk about that. Like we all like we shame
everybody.
like females,
Yes.
we talk about like shame and stuff like that. And we are shamed publicly a lot
100%.
for sexuality. But the
Yes.
thing is, like, your guy is probably going through some shame shit too,
Exactly.
and some weird feelings about his body or his sexual performance or whatever
Mhm.
like that. And like, it's so much better if you guys can have a conversation about it. And I know that's hard, but like, if you can't have the conversation, at least like in the back of your mind, know like he's not like some like superhero that's coming in and is just like a sex monster and
Mm-mm.
like has no insecurities. That dude on the other side, he's got the same shit going through his head,
Yeah. Yeah, and when I'm saying, you're weird or I'm weird,
Yeah.
I am speaking about
Yeah.
both partners. And
Yeah.
that's regardless
Yeah.
of this is a straight or
Yeah.
gay or anybody. Like this
Anything.
is whatever you got down
Yeah.
there, it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Okay?
It
Like we're
is.
all weird and we're all normal all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to the point of like all of us growing up with shame, especially people with vulvas, it's like
Yeah.
we need to just the more we can talk about how weird and messy and awkward sex can
Yeah.
be, the more we can normalize and get rid of the shame because it doesn't need to be there. The shame was put upon us by purity culture and by
Yeah.
all of these fucked up constraints that like don't even matter.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into like every person's shame monster,
Oh
right?
my
Like my
God.
shame monster is like Catholic and being a woman of color and just not being in like a like white patriarchal like perfect like body,
Yeah.
and men love it. Men
Hmm.
love that,
Yeah, they do.
but they also have weird like impressions that have happened because society is the way it is,
Yeah.
right? So they love the fact that I'm thick, but then there's shame about loving the fact that I'm thick.
Hmm.
And then there's like, there's all this stuff, and I just, like, they're like, I'm walking around with shit, they're walking around with shit, and it's just, our shame monsters are just being fed by all of this, like, just racist system. Like,
Racist,
fast
fatphobic,
phobic, yeah.
patriarchal,
Well, even fat
misogynistic,
phobia
all of it.
is really white supremacy,
Oh
because
yeah.
it is just like really degrading curvy black bodies,
Mm-hmm.
or other bodies besides like an Anglo-Saxon, like perfect frail woman, you
Yeah.
know, which we're all degrees, or none of us are that,
Yeah. Yeah.
like nobody's that, like
And
nobody,
honestly, even when we are, then we're skinny shaming them. And
right,
we're calling them like, oh, she's got a boy body or whatever, you know? Like, and
yeah,
it's just like, we need to just stop talking about people's bodies unless we're going to say, hey, you're beautiful,
yeah,
full stop. Like,
yeah,
just stop.
yeah,
Nicole Byer talks about that a lot
yeah.
about, I've been going through her entire podcast, highly recommend.
Her stand-up is interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. But for like a while, she was talking about this guy that posted about loving his fat, curvy wife, or like, I love my curvy wife. And she's like, what the fuck, dude? Can't you just say I love my wife? Like, why does this need to be a part of your fucking identity and the thing? And like,
Mm-hmm.
she talked a lot about that. And just generally speaking, yeah, that there is a very real thing that's happening with men where they love a thick babe.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah, they're like super into it, but they're ashamed to say that out loud. They're
Yeah.
ashamed to walk in public with her. They're ashamed to
Yeah.
hold her hand. And it's like, bro, you got to work through that shit, because you don't deserve somebody if you're going to be ashamed of them. Until you
Absolutely.
work through your shame and you can be public with someone, you don't deserve the benefit and the pleasure of being with that person. And that's a healing process for you as well,
Oh, for
because you
sure.
don't deserve to feel shame, and you don't deserve
No.
to put that shame on someone else and then feel further shame for putting that shame on some, like, it's
Yeah.
fucking messy. It's
It
so
is.
messy.
And feeling like a fetish, it is interesting. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, there is an aspect that's real sexy to be like somebody's fetish.
Sure.
But at the same time, when you want to like come home to somebody, you want it to be a genuine connection, and also be their fantasy. I think when it's like there's a fetish. For me, it's scary to be a fetish, like, oh, I'm light skinned, so that's a fetish, and then like it's like I'm some weird prize, and then I'm not a real person,
Yeah.
right? But there is something about like, yeah, that's my kind of person, or that's my kind of like sexual preference, but there's some kind of weird disconnect with the fact that people are so shameful of liking certain things that it becomes to like crazy fetish level, or denial completely.
Yeah.
And I think I think crazy fetish level is very scary to watch.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
like, to me,
Yeah.
I'm like, do you like me because I'm so called, as some lovely people love to come up to me, mulatto and curvy?
Mm.
Please don't say mulatto to me. Please do not.
Don't do that to
Don't do that.
anyone.
Don't say that.
No, we all know better. And
Mm,
if you didn't before, you do now.
apparently a lot don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But stuff like that, like where you're feeling, and I mean, like, I'm sure you get it too, like
Yeah.
fetishes of like
Exotic.
stuff.
I'm exotic.
Yeah, and just like the stuff that we're interested in,
Yeah.
that becomes fetishized too. And like, there is nothing wrong with having a preference, or even having a fetish. It's where it gets to a point where it's like you're not a person.
100%. People
Yeah.
fantasize about me. That's my dating experience, generally speaking, is that people would rather fantasize about something with me than actually go through with
Mm.
anything with me. I'm also like not dating right now. So, and like, I'm just done for the time being because it's not a thing that I'm very interested in.
It's fair.
And part of it is because I'm like, I don't want to be your fucking fantasy. I don't
Yeah.
want, and you know what? If I am, you're going to fucking pay me. I'm sorry. I need to get paid if I'm just going to
I
be a
mean, that's
caricature. Like,
fair.
that is fair. Sex work is work.
It is.
But,
It is.
I think that is an experience that a lot of people who are not skinny, white, cookie cutter,
Mhm.
that is the experience of a lot of us,
Yeah.
where we're either like, I grew up being called like exotic and like, what are you? And it was
What
always
are
said
you
like that too.
question? What
It would,
are you?
yeah, like the R is always like, what are you? What do you think? I'm a fucking alien? Like, I'm
Yeah.
a human being. What do you think? And then I would fuck with people and be like, why don't you fucking guess? And I would get every
Oh yeah.
fucking country. Holy shit. People would throw out like the wildest
Oh
shit at
yeah,
me.
they'll throw out some weird shit, and
Yeah.
or they'll be like, or you just tell them, and then they're like, I knew it, I knew it,
Ugh.
I knew it. My friend's friend, who's a friend of mine, knows a person that looks exactly like you and is you.
Oh my
I'm like, what are
God.
you talking about?
Like, what?
Or they just start like naming Black people that are their favorite, and I'm like, that's great. Listen, I understand that you've met Black people before. I really don't need to know the list.
I mean, I'm not even going to pretend to understand that experience, but like, fuck, that's got to be, I don't even know what that's got to be. But like,
It's interesting.
I mean, I guess I've had that as a Jew too. I'm the only Jew that hundreds of people have met in my life.
That's
Uh,
so weird. I mean,
I mean,
because I grew up out here, so like to me,
yeah.
I'm like everyone was.
Yeah. I mean, listen, where I went to school, I went to a Hebrew day school for half of my life, well, my childhood. And then I did go to a high school and a junior high that was like very Jewish. You know, a lot of Jews were around. But then when I went to college in upstate New York, I was the first Jew that God knows how many people met, depending on where they grew up. And then when I went to New Zealand, I may have been the only Jew in the country. I wasn't. There were like 10 more. But you know what I'm saying? Like I've been in a lot of circumstances
Right.
where I am the only one. And it is like, oh, you're real. Can I touch you?
Yeah.
Like, what?
I mean, it's so like it's so strange to me because I grew up with so many Jewish like friends, neighbors, family. Like it's strange to me, but I do understand like that it happens outside of LA. But like I
Mhm.
mean, I used to like get mad at my parents because we weren't Jewish. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? My friends are Jewish. Why am I not?" Having like, why are we not doing Rosh Hashanah? What's happening? I'm
Why
going.
can't we be fruitful
Yeah.
and multiply?
You're like, why? That's it. I'm going to their house. I don't even care.
Oh, that's so
Because it
funny.
was just so like ingrained in us that we had so many different like religions and nationalities that were just going to my school that I was just like, why don't I do that too? Like, and
Yeah.
then they're like, we're Catholic, and I'm like, that's stupid, and it's true. It's stupid.
It is stupid. And you know, I feel very privileged to have grown up in New York. It was an absolute fucking privilege for a million reasons, but part of the reason is because we had so much exposure to so many different
Yeah.
people that like anywhere I went in the world, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is fine. This is normal."
Yeah.
Like I actually felt strangely enough more shock coming back from New Zealand, moving back to the US. I don't know where this came from, but like I don't know, fucking culture shock. Way
Yeah.
sex.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, that would, I mean, I haven't been to New Zealand, but I feel there would be a culture shock there.
It's a culture shock coming back here, not so much there, but coming
Oh,
back here was the culture shock. It is a very homogenous place there. However, there are people from all over the world. So you do get a lot of exposure to a lot of immigrants and first
mm,
generation people, a lot of people from a lot of different places, which I got in New York too. But I feel like I met more people living in New Zealand who were from different countries than I did in New York, but I still had exposure in New York. But just coming
yeah,
back to this country that's so capitalist and commercialized and pop culture
yeah,
was like it was a lot. It was just a lot to take on for sure.
yeah, I'm
But you
sure.
know, looking at pop culture and looking at sex education, where do you feel like you learned the most? Do you feel like you learned a lot being on set with like other kids? Do you feel like you learned anything from adult? Like, did you ever overhear anything on set?
I mean, I don't think there's certain stuff I just didn't understand. Like, even now, like, it took me like some of the Me Too movement to like go, oh,
Mm.
that's what that was. Like, because I just didn't know. But I do think that like most of my exposure was probably pop culture related. And then I would just like try things out, and then I'd have to have it explained to me because I think I was like the first kid in preschool to like kiss a boy.
Oh.
Um, and then he wouldn't leave me alone because he was just like, "Yeah,
Oh
let's
my god,
do
I want to do this
this."
all the
Yeah, and
time.
I was like, dude, like I was just trying it out on you. I don't want to see you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so like I guess also that I also have sisters that are significantly older than me.
Yeah.
So they were going through like raging hormones and teens when I was very young. So I think my parents had to explain a lot to me early because I was on set with adults. I was around people that were like, you know, open sexually about stuff. And then I was also like sharing a house with two teenage girls who were going like crazy, you know, in their own ways. And I was like, why are they doing that? Or it's like, why is my sister in the car like steaming up the car with like, you know, like what is that?
What's happening there?
What's happening? And also my parents were very like sexually affectionate around us.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy because they were just like always like either fighting or like almost fucking. It was like the craziest.
Passion.
Yeah.
Passion.
It's very healthy. But so I think like I was just exposed to a lot of different people, and I did have the I was lucky that if I did see something, I did have a home to go to that I could talk to about it. A lot of the kids that I grew up with had chaperones or just really didn't have anybody to talk to, and they didn't talk to people about the questions they had, and then they would do stuff and it would have consequences that they were not prepared for. Unfortunately for them, you know, and unfortunately for me, I always had like an open door kind of situation, and my mom would be like, as long as you didn't kill anybody, we can fix it, we can figure it out. I just like talk to me about it, and so far I haven't killed anybody. So
that's so good.
I know
Your mom is rad. I just want to say that I love your mom. You guys, you do so much together.
We do
I don't do shit with my mom. I love her, but like she can't hang the way that your mom can hang. So
she might be a little bit cooler than me. I mean, like somebody that's been to the Playboy Mansion as much as she has, I don't know. She's seen things that I probably
she should come on the show. Actually, she actually should. So this is her official invite. Because I think it would also be really interesting to talk to her about navigating all this stuff and having a kid in Hollywood. Like that's so much. And I grew up going to camp, and I think we all know the tropes about camp. So is there anything like that? Being a kid growing up on set in Hollywood, you know how like camp kids are always like hooking up and doing stuff. So like what was that aspect like?
Oh yeah, everyone was hooking up with everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean that's why the Oakwood Apartments, which I've written a pilot about, because growing up, the Oakwood Apartments were the apartments that if you worked in the industry, you were a kid actor at like Nickelodeon or Disney or whatever, you would live at these apartment buildings, and not all the time would you have your parents there. You would have a chaperone for maybe 2 to 3 kids in an apartment or something like that. And we would just like go around this huge complex with like 2 or 3 pools and jacuzzis and like lots of nooks and crannies. Like I totally lost my virginity at Oakwood Apartments. Like, you know, like they would like, you would be like, oh, the chaperone's away and this house. So then we'd all go to that like apartment, and just too much, raging hormones and too much freedom. Right? Like we would just get lost in this place. They had a movie theater and all kinds of shit. Like we would just like walk around this like huge apartment complex and get into all kinds of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also like too much freedom and also money, you know, and nothing to do with it really. Like no kid knows what to do with money, and especially not teenage kids. So like that's like when things like drugs get introduced and alcohol, and so easy to like, you know, go have parties at a house with 15-year-olds just living there.
All the things that you would want that I wanted at 15, to be honest, like freedom, drugs, sex. Yeah, I was having all of it.
But absolutely, like at the same time, you are and it's not a child complex, right? Like there are grown people that are also there. And so they got in the mix too. And
that's trouble.
That's a lot, you know, that's a lot. I unfortunately was scared, or not unfortunately. I was fortunately scared of a lot of things. Like I kind of think I knew from the very beginning of my sexual exploitation that I was just very dimmy. Like I was just like, I very much love all this stuff. I just don't want to do it with you, or you. You know, like I just like want to find somebody.
What a gift at an early age. To understand that about yourself, or to at least be in that stage and not feel the pressures of everyone else around. Well, I mean, I'm sure you did, but
because even like my girlfriends, like I feel like more than guys, I got a lot of pressure through all my age groups from women who are like, well, you can't just like think that you're going to just be with one guy. You just got to go out and do all it. And I'm like, I'm just not that person. I'm like so sexually open. I'm so this. I'm, you know, like I'm like so ready to like support you, to listen to you, to do whatever. But like, I'm just not. This is me.
Yeah.
And it was so like I would get so shamed. Like I was so shamed by it, and I was like, I guess like the one time I had an experience that was outside of that thing, I was like, ugh, boring, stupid, and
this is bad.
This is bad sex. Why would you guys want to have bad
Why?
sex all the time?
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
Like
It's
that
true.
to me, I'm like, you don't know this person? And then they like are bad, and then it's over. And I was like, this was pointless. I could have just gone home and read Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Don't read Harry Potter because she's a turf.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and the reality is it is just a bunch of bad sex. So and there are god, the pressures I think that girls put on each other at a young age too is crazy. And it's also it is a result of this patriarchal system that we all live in, and the pressures that we feel and what we put on each other. And it's
100%.
awful. It's
They
more
shame you,
yeah.
and then you do something you don't want to do, you don't feel comfortable about, and then they shame you for that. Like I've had so many situations like that where like a girl, you know, like I remember when I was in like college or something, this girl really liked this guy, and I was like, oh well, you should go for it. And she goes, well, he's into you, you know. And I was like, well, I'm not into him. And she like just shoved him on me, and I was like, I don't. And then I just did something with him, and then I was forever shamed about it.
Oh boy.
You know what I mean? Because we just don't know how to deal with those feelings. So we think that we can just be like, okay, yeah, if he's not into me, it's like fine. But there's emotion there.
Yeah,
there's
of course.
emotion there.
There's hurt.
There's
in ego and all these things. There's a lot of complicated feelings there.
Yeah. And I don't think most of us are equipped to even understand those until probably like 25.
Yeah, I mean, I think even as adults in our 30s and 40s, people are not equipped to handle that because again, we need the resources, we need the education, we need the support,
and we need to do the work on ourselves.
We need to do the work on ourselves. We need to find the resources. There are things available for us, but there were never really any systems to be teaching us these things and teaching us emotional intelligence and communication and sexual communication and all of this stuff. So it's starting to change. You know, the resources are available. There are a lot of people out here doing the work.
I will say the one major thing I've seen is like from the Me Too movement. When I was a kid, there were things that happened that I just didn't understand were inappropriate.
Yeah.
And when the Me Too movement happened, and I hate this, but when it happened, I heard some of the stuff and I was like, no, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
And then I had to go, oh, wait a minute, you know, like, and I had to have a re-education of myself because I actually accepted those kind of behaviors as normal, as what people do. Or that creepy guy that you don't want to sit next to, or that creepy guy on set, or that, you know, guy at the party that you just, you know, like, you know, he's going to do that. So just like try to avoid him as much as possible, like whatever it was. Yeah. Or that creepy girl, you know,
we protected them.
Like we protected them so much. And we just kind of was like, that's what they do.
Yeah, it's just what it is. This is just, you know, you'll be fine. Just deal with it or avoid it
as much as possible.
Exactly.
And well, you went to their dressing room to rehearse. What did you
think was going to happen? I don't know. Fucking rehearsing.
Yeah. And I was just like, had to like retrain my brain because I really did like. You are a people pleaser, especially as an actor, as an entertainer. Yeah. So I was just like, this is how people are. And then, you know, like if it makes them happy, this is how we make them feel comfortable. And then it's like, whoa. But how do I feel comfortable?
Yeah. And there is a whole bunch of, well, this is just what it is. This is how he is. This is what it is. This is, you know, like.
And you don't have to be in the industry to experience that. There's boys will be boys.
Of course.
Or, you know, why did you get in their car? Or why did you do this? You know?
Yeah, it's all fucking bullshit and it's all shame on the wrong side of it.
Yes.
Anastasia, it's time for a pop quiz.
Oh gosh, okay.
Okay. What is smegma?
Smegma? Isn't that like the stuff that comes out like the little Famunda cheese? Oh wait, no, it's the stuff that uh, after the circumcision, right? I don't know. God.
I give you nothing. You were pretty close with the cheese. So smegma is basically a buildup of dead skin cells, oil, fluids, things like that. It is cheese-like. It's generally white, maybe a little bit yellowish sometimes. And it's what will collect under the foreskin if you have a penis, or inside the lips of or in the labia. Most often it's found in the penis in uncircumcised penises, but smegma is the shit that collects if you don't clean your dick properly.
Famunda cheese.
Famunda cheese.
Cheese Famunda your dick. That's what I learned it was, but that's probably not the technical definition.
Oh, but I like it. Famunda cheese.
Cheese that's from under your dick or your balls. That's the way I learned about it.
Oh boy. It's not intrinsically harmful. It's just fucking nasty. So, clean the folds, whether you have a penis or a vulva. Clean in those folds, because vulvas can get that as well.
Yes, they can.
Please
don't.
Yeah, you don't get it as much, but
because you might get a really bad infection too.
Well, that's the thing. It does lead to infections because that stuff can collect bacteria, and then if you're putting your smegma up in someone else, that's not good. It's nasty. It's dead skin cells. It's oils. It's fluids. It's things.
Exfoliate. I'm just kidding. Do not exfoliate down there.
Pull it back. Clean it off. Put it back on. It's fine.
Don't put any exfolation down there.
Please don't exfoliate. That's gonna hurt a little bit.
I'm not telling you to do that.
Is there anything else that we did not cover that you thought about that you wanted to share when I asked you to do this?
I mean, I don't think so. We talked about anal. We talked about everything.
Right. I mean, we talked about anal, so there's nothing else to talk about. We're good. Anastasia, where can people find you?
You can find me. You can go to my website, AnastasiaWashington.com. You can go find me on Instagram, Anastasia Wash. And I think Anastasia W is everything else on social. Because I couldn't get all the same name because somebody will not give it to me.
Why?
And they're not even posting.
Oh, that's terrible. Anyway. So if anybody knows the other Anastasia Washington, please connect us so we can,
have a
convince
talk.
her.
I'll make her cookies.
Yeah, her cookies are real good.
Thanks.
And is there anything that you're promoting right now?
Well, my audiobook is available. It's called You Need to Hear This. It's on every platform except for Audible because I am being driven crazy by Audible stuff right now. So who knows if it'll ever be on Audible because I'm whatever. But everywhere else you can buy it. And I'll be at Comic-Con. I don't know when is this coming
out. July, I think. No, June. End of June. I think this is end of July.
Yes.
End of July.
So I'll be at Comic-Con doing a panel about true crime in comics and pop culture and why we're so obsessed with it. And every woman on the planet is obsessed with it. So just come on down.
Go say hi to Anastasia at Comic-Con. Yes. When is Comic-Con?
Comic-Con is July 19th through the 23rd.
Okay, great. This might air afterwards, I think.
If it does, then I'll be doing another con, probably like Midsummer Scream or something. Perfect. There'll be something. Just look at my stuff.
Yeah, just follow her on all the things. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe, send this to a friend, especially a dude, because we talked a lot about that, or someone who wants to explore anal, or just someone who's real fucking cool. Leave a 5-star review, because that would be super sweet of you. If you have a question that you would like me to give as a pop quiz to one of my guests, you can leave that in the review. I will be checking those, and I'll give you a shout out as well. I don't know. I think that's it. So thanks for watching. Love you. Goodbye. Mwah.